This is Hadrian Radio, coming to you from Free Catalonia, a KA Radio production.
What do you think is worse, ignorance or indifference? It says, mate, I don't know and I don't care. Ignorance and indifference, together with fear, are some of the tools that the powers that be use against every people in the world, and specifically the Catalan and Scottish people, to avoid us from getting independence. A lot of people ignore or doesn't know that the Catalan leaders are traitors, and the same thing is true in Scotland. And some of those that know are indifferent because they think it's too difficult or impossible or too risky, or who can I vote for if all of this is a lie. Today, it's important days for these people because we have an answer to that, an answer that gets us closer to independence. I'm David Rabantos. This is chapter 38 of Radio Hadrian on its English language version. I cannot avoid emphasizing, and this thing is happening in two countries at the same time, and it's in Scotland and it's in Catalonia, and sometimes it is difficult, and it's difficult for me as well, to keep track of the fight on both countries. But and to this reduced group of people, but that we're gonna make grow, I want to emphasize, and it might not look much to you on the other side of the Hadrian Wall, in the Scottish side, but KA Radio, the person of Cheryl Scott, and of course Delia Forrest, which was the initiator of the program and specifically the English version, are gonna have a tremendously relevant place in the history of Catalonia. This program is the only program telling the truth about Catalonia. This week we received letters from people saying we've been fighting the abuses of the pharmaceutical companies, and I didn't understand nothing what went on in Catalonia until I listened to Radio Hadrian Catalan, and now I understand everything. And me as a naturopath, I recommend you to listen to Radio Hadrian because the truth is a necessary food for the soul. So thanks KA Radio, the voice of new music. We're gonna try to give you back part of what you've given Catalans by offering us this unique window to tell the truth. Thank you so much. We'll always stay in depth towards KA Radio, the voice of new music. Today, I would have wanted to go into detail about the hope hands of our parliament, and also some news that got here that second referendum might be called in the autumn. But it's been an intense week here, and basically being intense here, and on the other side being in the known that we are more advanced in the independence process in Catalonia than it is in Scotland now. I am convinced that the best thing I can do for my comrades in Scotland is to make sure that the opportunity we have for independence in Catalonia and that the traitors are trying to steal from us happens. So when I'm working for Catalonia, and that reminds me, when I did a hunger strike starting the 3rd of May of 2016, which you can find in YouTube, I made a hunger strike both for Catalonia and Scotland. So it is always clear in my mind and in my heart how linked both our fights are. But this week, as I said, it marks a milestone in the fight of Catalan independence because, and words might fail me because it's a very emotional moment for me, but I can proudly, if with something in my throat, proudly announce that Directa 68, the only independentist party, the only pro-indie party existing now in Catalonia, has come into being. And this has taken us 15 months of fighting against this corrupt system with controlled opposition, where everybody you know in Scotland, Puigdemont, Junqueras, Forcadell, Anarchy. All of them work for Madrid. So it's been very difficult, and they've used every trick in the book against us for 50 months to avoid us to come into being. And for 8 months, we've had to go to the notary 3 times to go to Madrid in person. They gave us the most incredible excuses not to inscribe our party. But now, Directa 68 is the party that will put from 68 to 135 members of Catalan parliament in the next less than 2 years. And we're going to declare independence once and for all. And the name Directa means straightforward or clear, which is something we're proud of because we don't do things like symbolically or politically, but not juridically. On all these things that have happened give like the name Directa relevance in this historical moment. And 68 is the majority we need in parliament to declare it. But for us, and it will lose strength in English, but I want to say it because Radio Hadrian, as I said, is going to be depicted as essential, because without Radio Hadrian, there wouldn't have been a Directa 68. So I've lost so many things in the last 50 months. I've kept my daughter, and I've kept a few things, and I'm fighting to recover some other things. But some of the things that stay and are important for me are Radio Hadrian, and now Directa 68, the party I'm the proud member of. And putting them together, being here Radio Hadrian, talking about Directa 68 or Direct 68 if you want it in English, it's an emotion that I hope you can understand, and I hope you pardon me for being slightly emotional, because we're really much closer to winning something that was impossible. But as Mark Twain said, they did it, they made it because they didn't know it was impossible. We didn't know it was impossible. Now today we are a step much closer to it. Everybody wanting to relate to us, that's info, info, at Directa, DIRECTE 68.cat. I want to explain what every letter means to us, because every letter, and I'll translate, it will be lost in translation, but it's relevant. Every letter in Directa means something to us. D is for determination. 4 years ago, we got determined to unveil this gigantic, humongous deception where every pro-indie Catalan leader, media, grassroots organization, social media, we think to work for independence, works in fact for our enemy. But we had the determination to go against it. And it works in English as well, it's for information. We've known these people. I started with some of them, some of the top movers and shakers. I studied with them in university 30 years ago. And some other people joining us also have a lot of information on them. This is a information revolution. You know that they control every mainstream media, and most of non-mainstream, and most everything is run by the powers that be, and in that case it means London and Madrid. But we have a lot of information, and we're gathering information from individual people that, thanks to this program Radio Hadrian, are calling us, and we're meeting them, and we're having coffee with them, and they're telling us, you're right for this, and here you have this info, and I'm still not ready to come out, but when the time comes, I'll come out. So we're gathering information, and we're going to win this. R is relat in Catalan. It's like narrative. It's this thing about in politics nowadays. So you need to have a narrative. So it means like you need to be able to tell a story that people can relate to so they can vote for you. And this R for us. It's very clear. We're changing a paradigm. We don't accept the treason in 1975, where the criminal Franco instated his follower-up, which is the Spanish king Juan Carlos I. And we didn't have real democracy, and we don't agree with none of that. This is not about right or left. This is not about religion or religion. This is about nothing else that unveiling the gigantic lie and corrupt regime that in Catalonia works for Spain while pretending to bark against Spain, then declare independence, and then we construct a country altogether that is beneficial for the people living in it. And we hope humbly an example for other peoples to get rid of their own corrupt regime. E for us is strategy. Strategia. I know lots of words in Catalan, they have this E because we're not very good at starting words with S, as possibly most listeners must have noticed much earlier than now. E then is for strategy, and the only strategy we think to bring down a corrupt regime or a dictatorship is once is gathering people outside the regime to work together and to gather strength and to put our experiences together, and we've done that with relevant people like Ramon Carné, which set up the first lobby for independence among businessmen, and he belongs to Resistencia. We have entrepreneurs, we have relevant people that have not been given a chance in the corrupt regime we have in Catalonia. But we also are linking with people inside the castle, inside this regime. This is going to collapse. It's inevitable. Too many people know already that Puigdemont, Junqueras, and the rest are traitors. So it's only a matter of time. And a lot of people are seeing that they don't want this corrupt regime in Catalonia to collapse on them. So we are already speaking with people who are giving us information about these people and tell us, you are right about Puigdemont, you are right about Junqueras. So when the time comes, when we are enough, then we're gonna give a sign and everything will collapse because people from the outside will attack and people from the inside of the corrupt regime will demolish it. Not very different from 9/11, if I remember right. One exception is people with blood crimes is not well received, but the rest, if they come and they help us bring down this corrupt regime, we will be generous. C is for Catalonia, and that's our country, and that doesn't require a lot of explanation. But this is Catalonia, but it's open to the world. We are the only project, and we've had interviews in Spanish YouTubes or Spanish-speaking YouTubes, and we have explained how we want people who already feel pro-indie and people who still don't feel pro-indie, because they've lied to both of us. Both of us have been lied. We've been pretending that we go to elections and we do things, but then they don't count. So it's open to everybody in Catalonia, but it's not only for Catalonia. We want to link an agreement with Euskal Herria, Scotland, Wales, Veneto, everywhere in Europe elsewhere to try to unveil the gigantic deception we've suffered. We've been betrayed by our own side. And then we'll have the chance to start a new society where educational systems help people to be free thinkers instead of being slaves, where we have communication media that serves to inform people, not to disinform or scare them or manipulate them. And that's what we want in Catalonia. It's for Catalans, but it's for the whole world. T is for team. That's good to translate because the problem is not with English, it's with Catalan that we have the problem to find T. T we define as team, but also talent. We making some of us have been in political parties, and we've realized that there's only a few people on top that are lying or deceiving all the rest, and a lot of other people are being deceived by the rest. So it's not about team building. It's not about talent search. Well, this is the most gigantic talent search, as far as I know, we've ever done in Catalonia. We are trying to find people who are good at anything that is needed to bring down a regime, and that's what we're doing. So every activity, everywhere you are in the world, if you can help, you can collaborate, you're welcome. Either if you have 1 minute and are very scared of showing your face, or if you have all the time and resources in the world and you feel like being the Catalan Braveheart. So we're open to all of those. And E is for epics, or for this kind of heroic thing that is needed sometimes for something as huge as this. In the Catalan resistance, and now from today in Directa 68, Directa 68, there's people who's been avoided from getting in political posts. There's people who's been damaged professionally. There's some of us who did a hunger strike and were put in a mental place. There's people who hasn't got professionally advanced because they've challenged this corrupt regime. So that's the epic we're talking about. We're not talking about what might be in Scotland, I don't know, Bravehearts or these things, or we're not talking about the Catalan. We're not talking about the Catalan Almogavars or this thing, because this epic is national epic, and it's important for us to remind us of who we are. But we're talking about the epics of the individual people that, against all odds, decide to challenge something in a challenge that seemed that it was impossible. But then they work and they persevere and they don't surrender, and then they win. And today with Directa 68, we are so much closer to winning. A brief comment related to Scotland. This week we received something like there might be second referendum called in autumn, and the initiative hands off our parliament. There's a demonstration next week, Wednesday, if I get it right. First of all, as always we say, and it's very difficult because sometimes they try to debate. I said, I don't know if in the English version as well, because calling yourself an idiot is hard enough in your own language, but doing it in two languages, it's harder. But in the Catalan version, I said, I'm not as smart as, and I'm not better in any way than people listening to me. They're still following the fake leaders, because it took me 23 years to be in contact with these traitors until I realized they're traitors. So every time when we say that people are being lied to, there's absolutely no disrespect to the grassroots. The people believe that referendums bring independence because they're lied by their own leaders and by their own media and by their own social media. So it's not we cannot expect everybody to find the truth. We should go that, but the world is not run that way. People trust their leaders, people trust their media. So it's a gigantic trick. And that makes people both in Scotland and Catalonia to think that you can get independence from a NATO country through a referendum. It's like believing that kids come from Paris or believing in Santa Claus. So, but as we say, it's not, because we are also people, so it's not against them. So people joining marches or people hoping for a second referendum, there are people, they're the Scottish people, they're the Catalan people, but they have been led up the garden path. No referendum brings independence, only UDI brings independence. So second referendum, they're only gonna do it when they're sure they can win it and smash you. And the second is hands off our parliament in related with the special deal for the Brexit that I'm not sure it's gonna happen in the end, because a lot of us think that Brexit was put there only to scare other countries from leaving. So now in the end, if it doesn't happen, it would have been a way to avoid Denmark, Holland, Germany or other countries from ever trying. So we'll see what the Brexit thing is in the end. But these noises about Scotland having its own agreement and so on have spurred, if I get it right, the possibility that Westminster could dismiss Scottish Parliament that was made by, as we said some other time before, by the buffet of Enric Miralles and Benedetta Tallapue, which are Catalan Office of Architects, Catalan. But similarities are strong, because Catalan Parliament has suffered an attack and been dismissed by Spain for calling Article 155 in the Spanish Constitution. But then we entrench in something that, if you had not been betrayed by your own side in 2014, or if we had not been betrayed by our side from 2010 to now, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Scotland would be independent, Catalonia would be independent. So it's always the same trick. We're having to fight to keep what we already have. It's not real. Devolution is not real when it can be called off in a moment of need for London, as it is the case. So we should, if you always go through the same way, you always reach the same place. You've tried the SNP, well, hasn't worked, has it? So it doesn't even need, you don't even need to believe everything we say, though it would be good that you start happening in an open mind. But it's something much more straightforward. S&P has had an overall majority in both in Holyrood and 56 out of 59 in London, and hasn't delivered. So it doesn't need any. You don't need to believe in any conspiracy. Just like, dude, you've been given the chance, hasn't worked, and make space for the next. That's how it should be. We entering the last minutes. Carles Puigdemont has publicly said that the 10th of October it was a mistake of him not to declare properly independent. Well, this guy doesn't seem to be the smartest of the lot, because the amount of mistakes he makes a newspaper with anti-Catalan Stephen Bergen in 2004. Then the 10th of October he makes a mistake, and then he goes to Brussels, and then in Denmark he says that a referendum where every Spaniard would have a vote could be a good solution. But then a few days after that, he leaves his companion in government, leaves a mobile phone in front of Spanish television so they can see very private messages when they say independence dream is over. But then the next day he rents a villa in nowhere else than Waterloo, which everybody, especially after the first day, the previous day communication nightmare, everybody associates with defeat. And then somebody puts a Spanish flag in front of him, and he makes another mistake, and he kisses it twice. So certainly either he is very unlucky or he works for Spain. When every mistake he does is in favor of Spain, and when he has reached presidency of Catalonia by very strange draw, 1,550 people in a riotous assembly of coup splinter party, 1,515 draw with another 1,515, and that's the only reason why this Carles Puigdemont, which has been by the Spanish mole Joan Vives and Soler Vicens, which happens to be the husband of the mole Anarchy, very active in Scotland. All of them are New World Order moles, and they work against Scotland and against Catalonia, but they're everywhere. You can even see them in Russian Times, or you can see them in Bella Caledonia. You can see them everywhere because they work for the New World Order. So it's very nice not to have to worry for the bills to go to all these places when New World Order is paying for it, isn't it? And this Carles Puigdemont now says that the 10th of October was a mistake. Well, we know from Michael H. Sweeney, author of these 25 rules of disinformation, that sometimes one of the 25 rules is to accept a lesser crime to cover a higher one. So when obviously it's clear that we're not independent, instead of course, saying that you're a traitor and running away to Madrid to save your neck or other parts, the cheapest way is to say you made a mistake. But sadness, he has made so many mistakes against Catalans, and he has been helped by moles, that only those in gigantic cognitive dissonance can fail to acknowledge that Carles Puigdemont is a Spanish mole. But that's it. The combination of reaching in very incredible circumstances and making the most incredible number of mistakes against Spain would make that he is the unluckiest and most stupid guy ever to have walked the land of Catalonia, or he's a traitor working for Spain. We have cleared that he is a traitor. Then he has also proposed Jordi Sánchez. Jordi Sánchez is a guy who's mentioned in a book 20 years ago as a traitor. And the book is called Betrayed by Our Leaders, The Leader's Treason. And this guy mentioned in a book called The Leader's Treason by Lluís Maria Xirinac, which is a Catalan reference for us. He has been put twice in charge of the grassroots civic organization for independence, ANC, Assemblea Nacional Catalana, without having been the most voted one. And there's been shenanigans not once, but twice in a row to put him president. That's something that made a lot of members to stop being paying members because of the shenanigans. And then he is supposed to be member of Independent Catalonia, and they call him to declare in Madrid, and he goes there. But not only that, but he enters smiling and laughing as he was entering the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion the night of the Oscars. Telling, no? He said, you go, they call you, it's a foreign court because you supposedly have declared independence, but not only do you go there, but you go there smiling. Well, of course, if you already know that you're going to be proposed for being president of Catalonia in a few months, who wouldn't be smiling, isn't it? Or is it laughing? Or is it laughing at us, Jordi Sánchez? And to top it off, there's been some shenanigans taking away some art piece, let's call it, that was in Arco, the most relevant artistic fair in Spanish state. And it was retired because Oriol Junqueras and Jordi Sánchez and Jordi Cuixart were in it. So it's been tremendous noise about that. And he's a bit more famous. And now, out of nowhere, this guy, who everybody who has read the proper books knows that he's a traitor, is proposed by a traitor, Carles Puigdemont, who was anointed by the traitor Artur Mas as the next president Catalan who nobody voted for. We're getting a bit tired, and certainly if I was not a member of Directe 68 de la Resistència, I would be very depressed. So if you are for independence either in Scotland or in Catalonia, we welcome you to Directe 68. To end up here, Brauli Duart is the leader of the Catalan radio station and television station. He also is a longtime pal of Joan Vives, who is this leader of FENEC who works for both sides. But maybe he works for Spain, but he pretends to work for Catalan side. He is the leader of the Catalan media, and now he sounds that he's going to be the Minister of Interior, and that makes you think, well, it's not that much of a change, is it? He's been attacking Catalans in the internal side of the skull, that's the brain, by manipulating us and making us believe in traitor leaders. And now they're thinking that they're going to give him a slightly different job, because he's going to be in charge of the one running the police with truncheons, so they can mash our skulls from the outside. So that's not much of a change, is it? It's just like some anatomical change. It's been a pleasure as always being here. We keep fighting for Catalan independence as the best way we can collaborate with the Scottish comrades to fight for theirs. In Catalonia, it's already time for winning. We're winning, we're gonna win. Then we're gonna humbly come to increase your ranks so you can declare independence. Visca Catalunya lliure!
This is Hadrian Radio, coming to you from Free Catalonia, a KA radio production.